Hi, welcome to Old School with Patrick Rooney, the podcast where old school wisdom is new again. I explore natural health, success, and freedom with my amazing guests. Old School with Patrick Rooney. And Old School deals with natural health, success, and freedom. The same thing I deal with in everything else, except I am doing a special series on success. We've dealt with COVID a lot, natural health. Like crazy, we've been dealing with that. We've been dealing with the craziness in America and trying to get some order back restored. So we've been dealing with the freedom aspect, but success has been lacking. Now it's time to have more success in America. It's time we get back off our butts, get out there and succeed in the world again. So I'm happy to have my good friend, Marc Yaffee, from many, many decades, who's a successful comedian as well. We dealt with, we had a part one that we just did, which was about a lot of things, upbringing, how we see the world, what's going on out there, and just a lot of good conversation. We're going to switch gears in this episode, and we're going to talk about success and the success that Marc has had as a comedian, and hopefully we'll get to coax out some success ideas from him about what he's done to succeed in the world of comedy. So without further ado, I'm going to bring on my friend, Marc Yaffee. Marc, how are you?
Hey, Patrick, great to be back. And thanks for picking up the conversation. I found it ironic, said, hey, we got to get off our butts and get back to work. And now I find myself working more on my butt in a chair doing virtual work, being a stand-up comic on stage. So
yeah, well, I saw you doing even a stand-up, if you want to call it stand-up, in your jacuzzi. That was pretty interesting.
Yeah, I try to make a commitment. Part of we can talk about success or lack thereof is just setting this even a short-term goal. I said, I'm going to do jokes from the jacuzzi series. Because I hadn't seen anyone do that. I'll do it every Sunday because, pick a time or pick a market or niche where maybe it's not well served or there's not a lot of competition and see what happens. So, I probably, at this point, I get, 10, 20 viewers. And then maybe during the week, I get, 500 to 1,000 clip views on my social media. So
good.
Maybe I'm putting it out there, but I just like the fact that I had that exercise because we're without my, with our traditional format. There's very few comedy clubs open, and most of the ones I work at, they close down or they're shut down right now.
Yeah, and I want to get into that with you as well. By the way, I'm sure your skin is doing better with all of the jacuzzi, and you're probably very wrinkled though at this point a lot of times, right?
I don't know that, it's got like the bromine and chloride. I'm a little itchy, but that's called old age. So
just don't dive underwater, and you're going to get that green hair look. So we don't want that happening. Marc, now this show I'm doing a lot different, maybe than last time. I wrote a lot of questions for you, so. I don't want to make it a complete script thing because I want to be, we love to just do off-the-cuff stuff too. But I may be cheating to some extent. So if you see me looking over here at my list, I'm looking at my questions. So I want to go through kind of like from beginning on, okay? Now, upbringing. We went over upbringing in the first segment. We're not going to really talk a lot about that. But I just want to know in relation to comedy, was anything about your upbringing? I know you talked about being adopted and things like that, or did that have anything, or is there anything in your upbringing that you thought maybe brought you into the world of comedy?
Oh, I'd say absolutely. I mean, my parents weren't super funny people. In fact, I think I might have mentioned, I don't know if we discussed this in our first podcast. My dad, I don't think I ever heard him tell a joke. Dads are like, hey, did you hear this one? He wasn't one of those, tell me if you've heard this one, guys.
Oh, really? I thought he would be like that.
Oh, and you think, okay, well, my adopted dad's Jewish, and the Jewish people are known for a sense of humor.
Right.
He wasn't serious. He's a very happy-go-lucky guy. Even in his later years, he's now 93. He always laughed, but I was raised. We watched comedies. I grew up in the 70s sitcoms and Flip Wilson, and we listened to Bill Cosby records back when Bill Cosby was not a persona non grata.
Was funny.
Yeah. So that was before he was even America's dad, but he was widely respected. Yeah. So I always had that in my background. I really liked I always enjoyed like the art of comedy, and I felt at a very young age, I felt I had the ability to distinguish kind of cheesy from not so cheap, especially like in writing. Like I remember Happy Days and MASH, like the first few years you loved, and then they get worse and worse every year. They ran out of ideas. They just got more just cartoonish, and I get so frustrated, you know. So I think
and then Fonzie jumped the shark.
it's exactly literally, and you know, I listen to Henry Winkler now, and the guy, he's a really good soul and super funny and centered man. And I just think you kind of sold out there, but you brought, it seemed like you brought it back to an extent. But
yeah.
I always loved writing in high school, St. Genevieve's, where I got on the what was it, the Valiant? What was the name of the newspaper?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that, you know, it's always had that writing bug. I had a little performance bug, and then of course we discussed in our first episode how we on our sports teams we're about as much about having fun and laughing as we were about practicing.
That's fortunate and unfortunate.
True. It speaks to our sub 500 seasons, but you know, I look back at my life. You know, I said in terms of success, people say, well, you know what, I didn't have a winning team. I didn't get any trophies. And the year I was a senior, our football team won the CIF, the Athletic Association Championship for Southern California, and we were this mediocre team. But I guarantee you, I had more fun than anyone else, just laughing. And in the year you were there, since you were great ahead of me, and then that carried on to college. I was fortunate to have some roommates who were creative guys, sense of humor, had the similar style of comedy. So I always had that comedy thread. I never thought about stand-up until way later, so we can get into that later.
Yeah, we will. You know, I remember now back in the schoolyard days, we used to gather at lunch and things like that, and it seemed like there was a lot of humor even at that time. And it seemed like we'd have like a group of people who get around and just be having a good time and things like that. And maybe mostly basketball people, but we were basketball players. But I remember that, and we had like a good time. Even during lunch hour, it was like we had a good time. So. And
it was fairly, you know, it was some busting chops, but it wasn't mean bullying, mean spirited. It was kind of clowning, and you and I we'd go over the top, and Patrick and I'll embarrass you. We would just get goofy and like retentions, and we'd stage these fake fights. We'd like pretend we're smashing each other over the head with the trash cans, those old aluminum trash can, and throw, you know, rolling over tables, and half of our friends are just laughing because they knew it was a joke. And then one time, Coach Crow, he comes run out in his towel, and we interrupted the poor guy's shower, and he's trying to break up the fight. And it's like, oh, Yaffee, Rooney, what the heck are you doing?
That was funnier than the actual fight. Man, I'm turning red listening to this stuff. It's very funny. But now we just fight on Facebook, so you know, it's moved on. I'm kidding. But yeah, I do want to get into that, and I didn't know all that about the comedy because. Now you remember in the old days, and I still watch this stuff on YouTube, and I still think it's great, especially now because we've become so PC, right? That it's so hard, you know, to say what we want to say. But you remember those, what do you call those dinners they would have? What do you call it? The roasts. Remember the Dean Martin roasts?
Oh yeah, Dean Martin, Don Rickles, and then you had the guy Foster Brooks mocking drunk people. Can you imagine that now?
Mocking drunk people, yeah.
And he'd stutter and sputter, and he was my. And then was the other guy, the Charlie Callis. Remember
Charlie Callis would do that too, right?
And then he'd be banned now because he's an able-bodied person mocking disabled people, he was just being goofy.
So the question, like, who wouldn't be banned? I mean, there was a black woman. Her name was Geraldine Page, I believe. Remember her?
Oh, you were talking about not the one that played Ann Esther, was it?
It might be. She was brutal. I mean, she used to you had what's the guy? I can't think of the guy. What's the guy that you say not your money or your life? He had kind of buck teeth, and she used to just rip the guy about his buck teeth. Milton Berle. Remember Milton Berle, King of Comedy or whatever? Yeah. She used to tear him to shreds, and she'd say, "You with your buck teeth, Milton Berle." And she was vicious, but she was very funny, and I don't know whatever happened to her, but she was great. And then Don Rickles, man, I mean, he probably would he be around? Would he be allowed to do half of the stuff that he?
I saw him. I was working in Laughlin at the Edgewater Casino, and he was performing at the East Center, the big event center next to you. I had 80 people. He had 800 people, or whatever. And I thought it was a bit sad. He was 92, 93 at the time, and and they brought him out there, and he was kind of a self caricature. They had a corded mic, but they had a guy at the end of the stage, way after the wing, with holding the cord. So if you got too close to the edge of the stage, I think it was like a safety mechanism. Kind of
Really? Oh my God.
And he actually had a band. He had Frank Sinatra's old band, so it was a kind of a old school. He had the tuxedo.
Yeah.
But at the same, it was kind of like a Muhammad Ali. I thought of it as Larry Holmes, one of these guys in their later years when it was past their prime. And it sounded kind of dated. And he goes, yeah, well, hey, the black guy here, the saxophone player, Tommy, his cousin's robbing your room right now. It was almost like too cheesy, you know what I mean? It's like, yeah, and the gay guy, you know what I'm talking about. So wait,
oh God,
yeah, he's not here. He's blah blah blah. So in a way, it was like I see there has to be some evolution. Some of that stuff was a little juvenile, over the top. In a way, I miss the like it was free spirited. It was mean spirited without being mean spirited.
Yeah.
Like, okay, we took our punches. We all go back. Let's go have a drink. Let's go. You did a great job tonight. Now it would be like, well, I've contacted my lawyers. There'll be a cease and desist. I'm right commission. There'll be a formal investigation, and I see that more and more from all quarters of society. So I don't know if comedy will survive in its genre. It's changed a lot. Like millennial comedy, especially, it's more of that self-deprecating and angst and make fun of myself, and it's like
Yeah, because we can't make fun of others anymore. Which brings me to again, we're getting off, and this is fine because we get off a little different than I wanted, but it's all good because I love this. I used to love, and I talked to you about Johnny Carson. I don't think there is a Johnny Carson type of show around anymore. I mean, because you have pretty much, most people are on the left, right? David Letterman and Jay Leno, I don't know exactly. I know his politics, but he's pretty good about keeping his politics out. So
apolitical in front of the camera.
Yeah. And he's good. I always liked Jay. I don't think he's on anymore. I don't watch late night TV anymore, but he's not on anymore, right? A long time ago he was gone, right?
No, he tours around, but he's been gone for like 6-8 years at least.
Yeah. But I really like him, and watching some of the old, I don't know if you ever watched some of the old Johnny Carson stuff, but Johnny was so good at, he was a funny guy, but he was great at bringing other people in and letting them be funny on his show and giving people breaks and things like that. And just, he'd bring people on, like he'd bring Burt Reynolds on. Burt Reynolds was very funny back in the day. And he'd bring on, I was trying to think of some of the other people he'd bring on, but he'd bring on Don Rickles. Rickles would steal the show when he would come on. He would just come on or Steve Martin. In later years, Steve Martin would come on and just steal the show. Mm-hmm. But I really kind of miss that, maybe that one America, kind of like one place where people can go and kind of like sit down together and laugh at each other and laugh at what they see.
And then part of it too is the social media culture. But I think you could still do that, but instantly people are going to just dice up and parcel every word, every joke, and create controversy out of it. I mean, that's just the that's the blessing and curse of technology and oversaturation. Everyone wants to be accessible. Those stars. I mean, this is kind of weird. One time I was in Las Vegas. We could get into that, one of our other other misadventures with blackjack, and I was playing blackjack one time in Las Vegas. Eventually, we got to end this interview now.
Yeah, cut. No, we used to play blackjack together, right? I mean, that's not the whole story, but we thought we could win, right? And we used to go to the casinos in the old days, and we thought we had a system, right?
Yeah, we were gonna figure out how to win legally.
Not illegal. We didn't have wires in our shoes or anything,
It was But one time I said it sat next to Milton Berle. He was playing at like just a regular table.
Really?
I said, oh, I thought you'd like to have like a little disguise. That's show business kid or something like that. So I was just out here. Now it's like, on one hand, the celebrities they're like insulated. They're in the high roller room, and they would never kind of cross paths.
Yeah.
But the flip side, on social media, everybody knows everybody's business, and they want to dig in and take this apart. Look at Kevin Hart. He lost the Oscars over something he said 10 years ago.
I mean, that was, come on. I mean, I don't know why he lost it, but it just got so crazy. And Kevin Hart. And I was thinking of somebody else too that just had. Oh, what I was thinking about as a black comedian, and I used to love Eddie Murphy, by the way. He was great. And back in the day, I don't know, he started just doing voiceovers on cartoons, I think, at a certain point. He just probably gave it up. But what's the guy that's out popular now? Chappelle. One thing I want to give credit to Chappelle for is Chappelle is edgy, right? He goes out and he does stuff and he offends everybody in one way or another. Now, quite frankly, I think part of the reason he gets away with this is because he's black. I don't know if white or other race comedian could get away with what Chappelle does. What do you think about that?
I mean, I think a Bill Maher and some of those guys can be pretty incendiary. I've seen Dennis Miller. Dennis Miller's super conservative. I've been to his show, and I don't. And he went pretty far to the edge on some of the stuff. I mean, Chappelle, I think I think there's no doubt that a comedian person of color gets away with more. I think like I can say stuff being part native.
Yeah.
If I was like a purebred, white Aryan, I wouldn't get away with it. I can make jokes about, I'll say stuff like, yeah, it's great. Glad thanks for laughing. You take a country, you can take a joke, stuff like that.
Right.
Whereas it came from a different perspective, it would be considered subjugative, whatever the term would be, pejorative. Yeah, so there is some to that. Now, at the same time, you can argue like there's a lot more. The Good Old Boys Network is a lot more insulated, and it's the guys that are in the game. People like me, like native comics. There's so few of us, and everyone's like, you must make a lot of money. There's Indian casinos, and they don't really give us any play. They hire the people that make money. We're brought in for special events and tribal appreciation days. So, at the end of the day, it's still like the talent still has a lot to do with it. But a lot of it's economics and drawing power and who can make you money without getting in trouble.
Yeah, there you go. There you go, right there.
Yeah.
Interesting. So let's take it back to, okay, so you're coming up, you knew at a certain point that you liked comedy. Mm-hmm. You know that you liked writing. I mean, I wouldn't say this on the first show, but we used to write together. We actually wrote 3 screenplays, right, together? I think it was 3.
2 or 3. It was 3, yeah. Yeah, we did the high school one, and then the goat walkers about the Olympic Africans, and then the martial law one.
Yeah. And they probably weren't bad. I mean, the first one was probably terrible, but they got increasingly better a little bit. But
if we'd done 20 more, we would have sold one.
Yeah, I think so. I think we just quit too early. Speaking of a success show, don't quit too early, guys. If you got something, don't quit too early, right? Number one.
Long game. It is truly.
It is a long game. Okay, so when you went, and then you had, when you went to college, when you were international relations major, right?
Then I wrote it in the school newspaper. I thought about doing diplomacy, and then I was considering going to law. Then I went to Cal State Northridge, took a master's in journalism, but then I left because Patrick and I were going to get famous writing screenplays. So, I mean, I enjoyed that more,
That was my fault. I took a detour in LA and I never came back.
Well, you didn't force me to drop. I just like, hey, we should do it. But this is part of the success code, if you want to say. It sounds so hokey, like I wrote a book. If you're going to go in, you got to go all in. Like I quit school, I wrote with Patrick, but at the time I should have gone and say, okay, go to a studio, go to a production office, apply as an intern, be a script reader, make some network inroads where people look at your script and have some connections. Because fortunately or not, a lot of the success nowadays is based on it's still the who you know.
Yeah.
And you have talent can shine through, but if you're out in the country and an hour from Nashville, or you're living in Sparks, Nevada, where I live, you don't have the connections. But on the flip side now with technology, people are, we're a little more interconnected from a distance. So
yeah, if I was to do this again, and I haven't been involved in script writing for years, but if I was again, you just kind of hit on something that's kind of interesting. I got these dang things trying to sting me again. Remember last time? What I would do is I would be, you talked about being kind of near the action or you really do need to be where things are going on. Like, in bodybuilding in the 70s, California was the Mecca, and Arnold and those guys moved to Muscle Beach, and they lived there, and they worked together, they trained together, they ate together, they socialized together. And the point is they were where the action is. So if I was to do writing again, let's say I was doing screenplays, I would probably be in that area physically or wherever, you know what I mean? And then I would be networking in that area as much as I could, or
at least make a plan to be down there regularly. You can't be a beach volleyball player in Peoria, Illinois, and expect to make the Olympic team.
Exactly. Okay, so let's bring on to the next thing that kind of catches my eye about your career, so to speak, is now I understand where it came from in the beginning. Then you got to the point, well, you got to a certain point, which is interesting to me because you showed an independent streak, which was interesting. You used to work for the DMV in the old days, right?
Yeah, I got the, well, when we were writing scripts and trying to do that, and I said, well, I got to make some money. So my other friend, Eric, said, hey, the DMV, state of California is hiring, and you can work part-time. It's a decent job. He goes, it's super kickback. Now we say that about DMV. But I got in there, and then I was, they took a shine to me right away because I did a good job, and so I hadn't thought about the comedy thing, but I did go see Sam Kinison, the late Sam Kinison, at Cal State Northridge.
I saw him there too. Did we see it together?
I think so. I think Bob Luzak or someone, maybe he was there as maybe 20, 25 people before he became arena famous.
Okay. Yeah, I saw that.
And I never forgot that.
I saw the same show. That was probably a turning point for you, right?
I didn't realize you were there, but that Seeds had been, I'd never been to a live comedy show. So I'm like, oh man, that was amazing. And it's always stuck in my head. But fast forward, I never thought what made me actually do comedy. There were some other things that happened. Is I went to what they call a one-nighter show where there's, in the middle of nowhere. I was at a Lions Club. I was living in Lake County in Northern California. And I saw this man, Don Lacey, comedian from Oakland, do a show, this one-nighter. And it was his first show since his daughter had been murdered.
Really?
To death in Oakland.
Wow. And
I saw the guy, he was so, he put on such a good show, and so you can tell it was so cathartic for him to be back on stage, and the audience had so much respect that he was doing this, and he explained it, but he still, and I'm like, man, if this guy can come back, after losing a child, man, I'm going to have to try this comedy thing. So I think that's the one that finally pushed me over the edge.
Oh, interesting.
But I thought about it since Sam Kinison days. I said, this is,
Well, Sam, getting back to Sam for a minute, that show, I was at that show. That was a show I never forgot because this guy was like super profane, the way he talked about stuff that would really make me wonder if I'm going to get hit by a lightning bolt from God or something, the kind of stuff he did. And he did die later. So I don't know, I ain't saying anything, but, but I tell you one thing. And he was a rebel because I think his father was a preacher or something like that.
Pentecostal family, traveling ministry.
Yeah, and he got involved with a woman who was like on the wrong side of tracks kind of woman. I can't remember who that was. She was like also in the limelight at the time, Tammy something, I think. But anyway, her parents or her dad or something was a minister too. So you have a couple people that were very rebellious getting together, right? And that's how they got together. But Sam was... Say whatever else you want about him. That guy was drop dead funny. I hate drop dead. Forgive me for that. Yeah. But he was funny as
double over funny. Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say funny as hell, but I might be every time I say something, I'm hitting a new ground here. But he was really funny. Speaking of which, and this gets off comedy for a second with Sam, but do you remember how he died?
It was a car wreck.
Yeah. Do you remember the story of the incident?
Well, he'd sobered up and he got hit and they got out of the car. He actually got out of the car and started walking and then he hit his neck. So if you're in a car accident and you I guess you're supposed to stay stabilized. I mean, I don't know how he knew. I think he said his neck hurt or something and it snapped his.
Okay, I didn't hear that, but I heard a story that when he got out of the car after the wreck, I think it was in the desert or something, he got out and he started walking and I heard that he said something to God. He said, like, why, why'd you do this to me, right? And I heard this story a long time ago, and I believe it's true from what I remember. He said, why did this happen? And he was like, what? And then he paused for a moment as if somebody was talking back to him. He's like, oh, okay. And like he was like at peace with it in some kind of way, like he was told why this happened to him.
Well, I know he'd gotten clean and sober and he was religious at the time, or,
Yeah.
I don't know how serious, but compared to where he was. So who knows what transpired, what I mean?
Yeah, it was really a strange story. But by the way, after the show that he did at Cal State Northridge, it was in the student union at Cal State Northridge. After that show, I approached him. I said, hey, that was really funny, man. and he was like super, some people are different off stage and they aren't. He was super nice and almost shy off stage. He was like real, like, oh, thank you. That's, he was like real appreciative that I came up and said something to him.
I appreciate that. He had that raspy voice.
Yeah. But okay, so let me move this forward a little bit. But it's great hearing how who kind of got your attention. Who would you say today is your favorite comedian, by the way?
Right now, who do I like?
Yeah.
Man, let's currently. I don't know. I mean, he's a bit profane, but he's really funny. I like that. I just watched this Jim Jeffries guy. He's pretty hilarious, dude. If you haven't seen him,
I haven't seen him.
And I think Chappelle's pretty brilliant.
Yeah.
Jim Gaffigan is really funny. I like the Greg Giraldo. He passed away a few years ago. I thought he was really good. And Richard Jeni, another guy who committed suicide. One was drug alcohol related, and one was depression. Shot himself related.
Is there, without giving away anyone's information or anything, is there a preponderance of, I don't know, people on the edge, maybe people with substance abuse problems, people with issues of one kind or another? Is there like more of those in the field of comedy than other places?
I'm sure in general, any performance. I think there's been some studies done. I saw something like a year or two ago, and I don't know if it was in England or here, that said there was a higher percentage of mental illness, in that field. But I think, anyone, you need to go out and get on a stage and stand there and talk at people for attention to get validation. There's a whole
something going on there, huh?
Exactly. But I think the substance abuse. It's kind of like the rock and roll days where the guys all be out partying. Now it's a personal trainer and a chef, and obviously I don't. I'm my own personal trainer.
You sound like you're talking about me now.
Yeah, but you know what I mean. It's like people. I think there's been some evolution, and the comedy used to be the rebel bad boy. Now it's let's go out and party afterward. And it was more of a hang than a business. Now there's still the hang where people hang out, but the business is it's like the music industry, and it's I think it's cheaper to produce. You can take a Bill Burr or something like that on the road and throw a spotlight up. You don't have to have pyrotechnics and a stage crew and amps, and it's just like, hey, we can make the same money, or 70% of the money at 10% of the cost.
I never thought of that. Has that been discussed much? I've never really thought about that.
A little bit. People are saying comedians are allegedly the top comedians are the new rock stars. I'm more a tribute cover band myself, but.
Yeah, cover band, yeah. So let me get back on to it. I started to mention about your breaking out on your own. You were at the DMV and things like that. And what I noticed, and then you went into that, and then at some point you left the area. You were in like the valley, near LA. And then you left the area and you went to the DMV, but you went into what do you call Santa Barbara.
Mm-hmm.
And so you actually left the area, and that's when I remember seeing you at some point there. In fact, I used to drive. You had a trailer at the time. You lived in a trailer park place near the beach, right?
Yeah.
And then I remember at some point I moved up to Santa Barbara. I became a cab driver up there for a certain.
You had that big old green Impala you're cruising on.
Yeah, I had this green old Volkswagen bus that I actually lived in for 1 year.
Bus, but then you were driving that cab company. I'm like, how are you making any money? That car got like 12 miles to the gallon.
Oh,
it's cheaper then.
I was in the worst cab imaginable for having a cab. I'm like in this, like, I don't know, like LTD. I don't know what you call this thing. It was like a V8, and it literally probably didn't get much more than 12 or 15 to a gallon.
Pontoon boat with wheels.
Yeah, it was crazy. But I was actually working the cab line in Santa Barbara Airport, for a while, which was interesting. I almost did it. Wrote a sitcom on that. I mean, I could have.
Some celebrities there, and
yes, John Travolta used to have a private plane, and he would regularly, about once a week, go out and fly his plane.
So did you ever pick him up, or did he have like a limo wait?
Yeah. Pick him up, and John Travolta. Can I say that on the? No, that's a joke.
You picked up John.
Because I didn't mean that.
Yeah.
I hate when people talk about celebrities. That was a joke. Sorry.
We can edit that. It can be
Maybe we can edit that.
But because then it's like, I mean, so they had limo. It wasn't Uber. There wasn't private cars. Now a guy would never, they would never jump in a cab. Once in a while, you get
I don't know if I ever met. I don't think I ever talked to him because there was kind of a side area there that I just see him walk over to and go get his plane. I don't think I ever met him, but it did seem like I always thought he was a really kind of pretty decent guy in a lot of ways. Though he just kind of came across to me. Even today, I think I don't know. He came across a pretty decent guy in many ways. Anyway, but you were there. My point is, it seemed like you went there and then you took off and did your own thing. At some point, you went from DMV to actually, you started your own comedy traffic school.
Well, my buddy talked to me. He said, "Hey, the state of California is having budget problems." He goes, "I'm going to start a driving school. You should consider it. All the counties are getting rid of, all the high schools are dropping behind the wheel drivers training." And then he said, "You can come work for me. I'll get you the hours. You had to have so many hours under someone else to open your own school." So I did that. And at the same time, I started doing traffic school classes, and I opened my own traffic school. So I left the DMV, said, "I want my own. We're going to make a ton of money, cash business, you know." So that went pretty well, except the classes in Lake County, out of the 58 counties of California, I would think that was one of 2 counties, or maybe the only county that didn't drop behind the wheel drivers training.
Oh.
So all these potential students, you know, it was me charging in a pretty poor county, a rural county, or them paying, you know, going to school and doing it for nothing. And then they charge them like $50.
Oh, okay.
They didn't really teach you much. It was like, you know, the drunk football coach, you know, sorry, I'm going to football coaches. And, you know, just sitting there driving the kids around with 3 in the car. They didn't, it was just all kind of playing them off, you know, but that was traffic school on the side to So that's where I started to get people say, "Hey, you're funny, man. We really enjoyed your class. I've been to, this is the best traffic school I've been to." I tried to put some jokes. I wrote my own lesson plan, which the DMV actually disapproved.
Really?
Yeah. I didn't follow the exact bureaucratic guidelines. You know, I was always butting heads with the bureaucracy from my days working there. You know?
So it was regular traffic school at first, and then you started throwing some jokes into it. It became funny.
Well, yeah, I never advertised it out of the gate. It was a Painless, Payless traffic school. So it just came up with a name. And then I just tried to make it more entertaining. I'd start throwing some jokes, and then you know, and you started getting in that writing mode. Oh, that I should say this. And then you do it over and over, you get your little shtick down. So it was like having a comedy set. So people said, "Oh, you're really funny. You do comedy." I said, "No, but yeah, I thought about it." And I said, "Maybe I should." I said, "I should hire some comedians to teach. I'll open another school, a second school, comedy traffic school," which was big. So many people in California that got tickets. You know, you're talking probably hundreds of thousands of people didn't want their insurance rates to go up. So they would go to one of these hundreds of traffic school. And so I opened Painless, Payless Comedy Traffic School. I tried to recruit some comedians. One was teaching a class in Sacramento. So I said, "I'll take the class." I would drive 2 hours each way to take this class. And the teacher liked me, started taking me on the road, and then just kind of took off from there.
So you had you definitely had a certain drive about you. And were you always, how long were you interested in like starting your own thing? Because obviously you were starting your own business and you seem to like to do that. So was that coming from way back that you didn't want to work for somebody else?
Yeah, I think it was, the spirit may not have been the best. It's not so much that I was oh man, you know, my goal is to be a driving instructor. My goal was to get the heck out of DMV. Basically, I was just kind of sick of that. It was, you know, it's kind of a stifling environment. And one thing that really bothered me, you know, like with the one, I'm not just here to bag on bureaucracy, because I think, you know, there's some good employees and stuff, but like the manager, we actually turned her in. She was forging overtime. She was trying to like pad her hours, you know.
It's kind of common in bureaucracies, right?
The janitor and I went and actually, we documented, Xeroxed it, sent it in. And I think she knew it was me that turned her, so she never liked me anyway, you know, because I was actually, you know, I don't want to sound arrogant, but I was way smarter than her. I was worth pretty much everyone in the office. She was just this dim bulb lady. And her dad, you know, was this is one of these old nepotism thing. The dad got her in there. And she was never going to advance from working in an office of 7 people. So that was her little kingdom. So I would do, you know, I got in trouble for that. Then we used to write in these suggestions called merit award board suggestions, where you get paid for saving the state money. Like say, hey, you come up with this form, it reduces overhead. And so I would send those in, and I probably made like a couple $1,000s a year, and it was saving the state money. So they would reward you a small percentage.
Right.
And the other employees were like jealous or annoyed that I would do that when it wasn't busy. So I was just kind of like bitter. I was, I don't want to do this. She said, "Oh, you can't be writing those up during work." It was just little things like that.
Yeah.
The
So
other guy.
you wanted to get out of you were kind of stuck there and you wanted out.
Yeah, I mean, I did like the fact, at the time I was married to two small kids, so I did like the security and the medical and all that. But, so I gave all that up. I had some money set aside. So I opened the driving school or worked for my friend in his school, got my hours, started my school, which was actually good because when I was doing the traffic driving school, I was able to start going out. I would just schedule around shows. So
Right.
another success tip I have, if you're trying to transition to something, if you have like that bridge where you're able to work in your job part-time, you got some flexibility.
Yeah.
Up until COVID, the gig economy is a good way of being able to, work on your other thing. Like, hey, you're driving Uber, you're working, Amazon Flex, whatever your thing is. So if you have that ability, which I did being self-employed, that really helped me to get out there and not just say make zero money. And because, I drive to Oregon, you make $100 a night and be gone for 5 nights. You'd end up probably breaking even by the time you pay for gas.
Yeah, it's tough to just jump out of something completely and just try to make it and stuff. And I've done that quite a bit, or tried to do that in different ways, and it's very tough to do. And obviously, not the best thing to do.
And some people will disagree and say, "Oh, you got to pull the ripcord and go all in," and just. Oh. I don't see that so much anymore. I mean, I think they'd say that mentally you have to be all in.
Yeah.
And even invest in, you have to invest in your career. So if you think you're going to, I've tried, that's when one of my holdups, I've kind of done it on the cheap, you know me, Pat, I'm Patrick, I'm fairly frugal, I'm super cheap. So sometimes I could have probably put some more money into stuff and I didn't, but you really do have to invest in yourself spiritually, emotionally, monetarily.
Absolutely. So let's dig into that a little bit. Let's get really into the success principles here. In terms of your craft, let's say, how did you know, at what point did you know you were going to make it in comedy?
I think when I started getting people calling me, when you didn't have to, regularly, and they say, "Oh, are you available? And you want to come here? I got a TV appearance on some like Galavision. It was like a Latino network, and I got a TV credit." So I said, "Well, if they think I'm good enough to do on TV, maybe I'll stick with this," because that was a good validation. And then I really wasn't that good at the time. I don't think I even got that really good till decent till like year 8, 10. I had flashes of good, as you'll see if you go to all these open mics and these guys have been doing comedy for 3 weeks or a month. Every one of them has this one nugget that's pretty brilliant.
Yeah.
Maybe a couple, but they don't know how to put it all together, and the rest is painful. So I think there was, when I knew I could make money, when I was finally making money at it where it replaced my income, I think it was just kind of dollars and cents thing.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And so is practicing comedy just what it seems like it would be? In other words, you get better primarily by doing a lot of shows, period?
It's just like working out or whatever. It's the reps or, going to the gym or going to the batting cage. The 10,000 hours thing. That was another thing where I struggled because I couldn't pick up and move my family to LA or New York. I had 2 small children, so I had to do this, commute. I had no home club. My home club was 2 hours away.
Mm.
That's each way, driving and bad weather, mountain drive. You've been up where I used to live, and most accessible place. And
yeah.
So sometimes I would drive down to the Bay Area and go down there, and the show gets canceled once in a while, or so the thing is, it's the fill-in stuff. Like when you get a book show, that's going to happen. But when you want to go do open mics and showcase where you build up your stable of jokes, and that's where I was at a disadvantage. I couldn't just go pop in a club. You guys got guys in New York City, LA, that, they're getting up 8, 10, 12 times a week. So that one joke that was kind of rough, hey, work it through,
out.
Or move this sentence, change this phrasing. I didn't have those advantages. I had a lot of time to think on it, but it's, there's theory and there's,
Yes. And it kind of reminds me a little too, and you've been this way. And I think one thing we have in common a little bit is we're kind of a little bit hippie-ish, both of us a little bit. We like to live, off the beaten track a little bit sometimes. And, me moving, more rural from an urban environment, you gain a lot, but you also lose that, connection to touch and to economic situations that are just not as easy to find. So you have to kind of make up for that.
Yeah. Whereas you might have you were living in LA, you might got some Sunday night radio spot that might have morphed into a syndicated show. Now you're trying to build a grassroots, you know, 20, 30 people at a time build up. So yeah, but you know, everything is a trade-off, and you know, you have to be where you feel, you know, you don't lose yourself in the chase of the dream, where you know, you rest your life out of balance. So I think that's when you can really be considered a success. It may not be. I've made a ton of money, but I've gotten to live a good lifestyle. I haven't had to you know, turn off an alarm in the morning for years. Not that I sleep in a lot, but it's about waking up naturally without that jolt. You know, and that's why I'd get super stressed if I had to fly or travel, because you know, the alarm and being at the airport, and I would have to drive 2 or 3 hours because you have to get to the airport early. So there was some you know, there's definitely some anxiety in wanting to do this thing. And comedy looks fun and entertainment, but there's a lot of you know, the 20 hours of time and effort and energy spent to perform 1 hour on stage, or whatever the ratio probably is it can be a little bit brutal.
Yeah, isn't that the case with almost everything that, you know, people see on the outside, especially entertainment related? People see on the outside, and it always seems to look easier to them because they only see whatever time you're putting in front of a camera or whatnot. They're not seeing the preparation, the travel, and the education, and all the stuff that you're doing, you know, to do that. I think you have to be kind of a certain kind of person, I think, to do it. Me, maybe, you know, and maybe we're similar like this. I just felt like a certain independent streak of wanting to be, ever since I was a kid, I'm like, give me my independence, you know, leave me alone, let me do my thing. And I kind of still feel that way, in a way, like, I would rather trade, even if it was a certain amount of money, maybe. I mean, I want to make money, obviously, but I would maybe trade a certain amount for the independence and maybe the lifestyle to some extent. So there's always trade-offs, I guess you would say, to one extent or the other.
I've never, I tell people I haven't made a huge chunk of money in comedy, but a lot of times I live a millionaire lifestyle. You know, I've flown you to gigs, and you have a private chef after a show and feed you and put you up at some beautiful resort overlooking a lake. And then the next night I might be in a Super 8 that should have been downgraded to a Sucky 6. You know, I mean, it's
Have you ever done speaking of which, because I know you've traveled all over the world, right? I mean, I know in many countries, and probably to most states now, right? I would think you've probably hit most states.
I'm at about 43.
Yeah.
But I haven't been to Tennessee yet. You're gonna have to set me up for a gig there on the porch.
Hey, Nashville, man. They got comedy clubs in Nashville.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's Zanies over there.
Yeah, there's Zanies. So let me ask you about yeah, I forgot what I was going to ask you, but I was going to ask you about, I think, travel, and I forgot exactly my question.
We're starting to ask you how many states. I've been 43 states. I've got to perform in 11 countries.
Yeah, and I was going to ask you, what is that like, in a sense, like going to different places? I was wondering if maybe you thought about writing a book about that. I mean, in other words, your experience, you must have very interesting experiences going from, you say, like the penthouse to, let's say, almost the outhouse, as far as, like, you know.
There's the book right there, Penthouse Outhouse.
Yeah, write it down. It's yours. But what is that like, or have you thought about that? Like, obviously you have a lot of chance to think. You have a lot of chance to observe people. You have a lot of chance to see good and the bad in things. Have you ever thought about that? I mean, do you ever think about that a lot? Like, what, you know, all the travel you've done, all the different kinds of things that you've seen?
I do more now. I think as you get older, you get more reflective. But back then, it's just, you're just caught up in just trying to get here and there, and jokes and not pay. And now I'm like, oh yeah, that was a pretty crazy experience. You know, like, you know, especially traveling the Middle East, you're going to the Pacific, and you're just seeing these different cultures. I performed for the Pacific Missile Test Range. Did a show on Kauai on a bar overlooking the ocean. You know, they're staying there trying to do. I've done jokes on Alaska Airlines at 30,000 feet. One time we were
in the airplane. You were doing jokes.
We were just going to Fairbanks, and we said, hey, we tried to see if they'd let us promote our show. He goes, well, why just go ahead and do some comedy? It was like, you know, Alaska's super chill. So I did like 10 minutes of jokes. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So,
I hope someone got some of that on recording something.
I cannot believe my buddy didn't film me. I was, you know, so I try to lay claim. I said I'm the only comedian with land, air, and sea credits. I think.
Yeah, right. What was it like? Now, I know that you've performed for the U.S. troops overseas. You started to kind of mention. Mm-hmm. What got you into doing that, and what kind of experience was that?
Oh, I think a friend recommended me to a booker, and then they want there's a certain type of person. They said you have to be able to put up with less than ideal conditions, because they put you up at a nice base one night, and then you're in just like a shed with a cot the next night.
Yeah.
That was I think I did my first overseas trip was Bahrain, which was like 30 minutes by cruise missile from Iraq at the time. It's the Fifth Fleet. Yeah. So that was interesting, and and then maybe it was I think I went to Korea and Japan, and I wasn't very good at the time. I remember it was, my shows were okay. I remember one time I was all these people in the back, they were just playing cards, these people could care less, but it's you focus on, that's, our brain draws toward that, but you focus on the people that liked it. And then,
yeah.
But, I was good enough. That same booker wanted me to come and do some other tours. So I've been to Iraq twice, Kuwait a couple times, Djibouti, Africa. And the experiences have been great. And the military folks are always appreciative of the shows. We did my last time I was in Iraq was actually 2016, 2017, and there was still some stuff going on with the Syrian. They were supporting the Syrian operations against ISIS.
ISIS, yeah.
We were like 10 minutes from the border, and someone lobbed, I don't know, something, mortar or something came over, and the power went out right in the middle of the show.
Really?
The troops are just like unfazed. My buddy's like, "Did you hear that? Did you hear it? I just heard war." That was his line.
You're like, out of there, come on. Time to go.
12, right? So then we're ready to that show goes on. So they just put on some lights and did that. Another time I did a show back in 2006 on a flatbed in El Anbar province, got my head shaved on the back of my hair.
Oh, really? There you go. Someone making money on you again.
Yep, exactly. I didn't get paid that time.
Oh, okay.
My hair was shorter than yours, but it was middle of summer in Iraq, so I got a little Jiffy Pop on the top of the head.
Nice. What would you say would be the best and worst show that you've ever done?
They were probably all the military ones, the best and worst. I don't know. I'd say the best show was, we did a show in a tool shed in Iraq for some mechanics that couldn't come to the regular show at the mess hall.
Shed, okay.
That's pretty awesome. We stood on a picnic bench, a workbench in the corner, and they just sat around and air conditioned, sweating, and so I'll never forget that. And then the one on the flatbed, probably one of my favorite shows.
That's funny.
Worst show, it's just probably some casino where there's like 7 people, and I had one in mucking about it. Like, guy was having chest pains, so he ended up walking out right in the middle of the show. And
oh my God.
He's all right. He's on nitroglycerin.
Yeah.
Painful ones where no one shows up. They say, "Oh, we're gonna have all these people," and for whatever reason, "Oh, sorry, this such and such happened." And,
so you've had the least people. I mean, you've had a lot of people, but every once in a while you get something where almost nobody's there.
Well, that's the thing. I haven't seen that career trajectory. Like, oh, gee, it's Marc Yaffee. We're going to fill the room. It's still like, oh, well, there's comedy. It just happens to be me there, and then the show. So it's just, I feel like I'm on this plane. It's just not quite made altitude, but I'm still flying.
Yeah.
I'm still in my jet. It just hasn't cleared the turbulence yet.
Yeah. Well, it keeps the ego in check, I suppose.
It is. It's a good ego. And if that doesn't do it, hopefully something else will. Because if you get too, haughty and cocky about it, it's kind of like sports. Guy go out and score 28 points one night, and next night scores 4 points and fouls out.
Yeah, that can happen.
Come at the same intensity, it doesn't always have the same outcome.
Yeah. Have you ever I mean, your stuff has gotten, obviously, I'm sure, a lot smoother and better over the years, as you say. Have you ever had a point where you don't remember your material and you just blank or something?
That would happen. If you work in Las Vegas, the Laugh Factory, they do 7 nights in a row, and you do 2 shows, and then on the weekend, I think 1 or 2 nights you do 3 shows. Mm-hmm. So it's not necessarily you forget the material. Yeah, it's either you forget if you've done the material already.
Oh yeah.
You've done it already 15 shows in a row. Did I just do that?
Yeah, yeah.
And then I just do it, and I don't know if I was repeating it or not.
Right.
I should have rolled the tape, but a couple times I forgot. You flub up a joke, or that's the beauty of comedy, though. It's not like surgery and mechanics. You can laugh it off. Your mechanic. Oh yeah, I put your transmission in back. Oh sorry. Oh
right.
Yeah. Surgeon laughing it off. He gave you a aorta puncture.
Yeah, exactly. You can't laugh that off. So is everything in the show scripted, or is there a certain room for extemporaneous, or how does it usually work?
Mostly comedy is mostly scripted. You just try to make it look unscripted.
Oh, okay.
You have a pretty good plan what's going to happen before. Once in a while you'll just freestyle it and say, okay, we're going to take a question. What do you guys want to talk about? And see if you can riff with it. Or, it's to the audience, someone pipes up with a comment, or something happens in the back of the room, somebody gets kicked out for, being too loud or drunk. One time I had a guy fall asleep in the show, well, probably several times. But,
that must make you feel good. Yeah, slept.
Yeah, and or I had one time I had a special needs young man in the front row, and he kept laughing. He was having the best time, right? Just because, but he was kept laughing at all the, like at the setup, not even the punchline. He's just having the best time, and we just got on board. You had to roll with it, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Those are the things that actually people, I think they appreciate them. They can, they sniff it out if you're too scripted or too theatrical. They want more. I think people want genuineness and some spontaneity. So
they do. Has your comedy changed over the years, and if so, how has it changed?
I think now I'm kind of adapting to the newer, I would say stream of consciousness style, but it's the less that joke.
Yeah.
Now it's more like, okay, well, we're dealing with COVID, and I'm trying to adjust. I got they said to plant a victory garden, right? Because victory gardens help the cause and do something good for the country. I planted a victory garden in April. I surrendered first week in May.
Ta-doom!
So instead of like joking, it's like, I'm like, I quit faster than the French in World War II. It's like,
that's hilarious.
They can stop a Nazi invasion. I can stop an aphid invasion. So it's a little different cadence.
A little different weight there, a Nazi versus aphid.
Yes.
Speaking of COVID, obviously a lot has changed in COVID. Obviously in your business, things have changed drastically because you're talking about clubs, sometimes bars, I guess, as well. I mean, the places where they're most likely to be shut down, other than a church in California, right? But the chance of being shut, so how have you adapted as a comedian? How has comedy adapted in general, and how have you adapted personally?
Well, comedy in general is still kind of just figuring out what's going on. I mean, and personally, still trying to adapt and see what I can make a living going forward. So more Zoom shows, obviously. Yeah. I did pitch a drive-in laugh-in tour. I had a couple of inquiries, but no one's really signed up on that. We do a show in front of the screen and project it. So we'll see if something comes out of that. And then I've got a couple offers to do some social distance shows where people do them outside or things like that. So
if you
see,
I was going to say, if you could do shows, I thought about this. If you could do shows because comedy is kind of like the thing that, to me, it works best on people laughing together.
Yeah.
That's why they had laugh tracks on the old TV shows. And like I saw it Saturday Night Live. I haven't seen a lot of it, but I remember seeing one on YouTube a couple months back, and they did one at everyone's at home, and I don't think they had a laugh, or they had a goofy laugh track, like a fake laugh track, but it doesn't work as well. It works so much better with people laughing together. Well,
and it's not just together; it's the group energy that you're sitting close together.
Yeah,
you're about it like a human being, and it's a lot easier to. For the good or bad, for the dynamics to, I don't want to say infect the other people, to bleed into the rest of the audience.
Yeah.
Now you go to, I've seen a couple clubs that are doing shows back. They got the tables are all spread apart, and people are wearing masks, and everyone's just kind of, it's not the same vibe,
It's not exactly the jovial atmosphere when you see someone looking like they're, gasping on a mask or something.
Is he laughing or gasping? I don't know what's happening. They should have had a mask like a smiley face or something.
Yeah. But so maybe that's going to be part of it, like the major comeback for comedy, I suppose, or the way it's going to get through COVID. Like I tell this story often, but I used to go to movies. We probably went to some movies together in the old days. I remember, it could have been with you, but I remember going to a movie. I was about 19, just fresh out of high school. We used to go down to Westwood, because Westwood was the place to go down to UCLA, and there was all the girls and all the stuff going on. Yeah. And there was a place to go eat, and obviously movies. And I remember seeing Road Warrior, which was the second Mad Max movie, I think. Mm-hmm. And I saw it in a packed house at one of the Regent or whatever that place was in Westwood. It was packed. And the opening scene was really intense. If everyone's seen the movie, they're going down the road, they're having this crazy fight, and it's very, intense. And in a movie, in a packed movie, it was like totally captivating. Everybody was like, whoa. And it was like it was a shared experience.
Shared experience.
And we don't have that as much probably, obviously, in that now we don't have the movies anymore where people are sitting together, or even a ball game, right? A football, basketball, baseball, what have you.
Cardboard cutouts behind them.
Yeah, I mean, so that idea of human, anyway, I don't know. It's just that needs to be part of the mix, right?
Well, yeah, it's not going to be the same. That's for sure. You do it on Zoom, and you hear this guy like ha, 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 laughing, and then you hear a guy in his kitchen with the microwave beeping, because so they do like a Zoom audience, and then the guy's sitting there trying to mute them, the moderator of the show. So yeah, it's different, but I just talked. I talked to everybody about doing a virtual conference. They don't even know how it's going to work. These are companies and gatherings used to meet thousands of people gather in Vegas or New York or wherever, and now it's like, well, we're going to have here's the virtual conference from 1 to 3. We'll do this keynote speech. It's not going to have the same effect. The guy's going to be sitting there kind of dozing off.
It won't have the same effect. So we need to, and I was going to ask you this probably in, getting towards closing here, how we're going to kind of overcome, and maybe I'm in the natural health world, so maybe I can be helping, and I try to help with my videos. I mean, some people hate them, but some people think they're good. The faster that we can get up and going economically, obviously healthy wise, the better, I think, for everybody. Maybe not politically so good for the other team if one guy gets up and it's Trump's America and Trump looks good because the economy comes back. I understand all that, but in the long run, what we do need to get back for everybody's sake at some point. So, because I want to see everybody do well. I want to see comedy back. I want to see the movies back. I want to see the ball games back, or all the different things. Kind of like the whole entertainment world is part of our culture. Music. But also just regular working and things like that. So, what do you think about that? I mean, any comments about that of helping us kind of get back to the norm? Have you thought about that much?
Well, I do, and there's I think it'll happen in different forms, and I just don't know how long it's going to take. But I think eventually we'll get back to similar to where we were. I don't know if it'll ever be 100%. I think from now on they'll wipe down the bacteria belt there at the grocery store. We'll always be plexiglass, but hopefully be able to smile and see people's face again. And there's no magic bullet. We got to take care of ourselves. But I think as people it's going to depend a lot on society and how we can support each other economically. Whether it's you go to the mom and pop store, give them your money, and tip a comedian or musician on the internet, try to keep them going. I think at this point we just got to try to keep each other's spirits up, and hopefully as the economy recovers and the virus passes, people are in a good enough energy. I think there's going to be a huge demand for live events when
there will.
But it's like, well, do we feel totally comfortable? Like, do I even feel comfortable taking a vaccine? Do I feel comfortable being in public with people that may not? You know what I mean? There's a lot of unanswered questions. I want to just go out there and spend money. I don't want to be walking around with a mask. It's just it's hard to fathom it all through right now. So I'm just trying to do my part. Just do my shows online and write and create and volunteer and
do what you can now. The thing is too, we have a public that is splintered. We talked about this in the last podcast, that we kind of we have these tribes now. That's kind of something that's suffered as well. Not just the fact that because of COVID, we can't have, but it's like, because we have these different tribes, it's like, we used to kind of like, we'd all go to the ball game together. We'd all go to the music event together. We'd all go see the comedians together. Mm-hmm. And now it's like, what, you got to have, like, you go to your tribe of your comedian who's,
there's a lot of people that are not going to go to an NFL football game. And then there's other people not going to go to a sporting event and watch a TV show there. But there's agenda has bled in, good or bad, agenda has bled into everything. And, and some people feel they have a righteous cause and that you gotta stick with your beliefs. But, how do you bring it back to the Johnny Carson days where it's,
how do you bring it?
The event's apolitical. You can still have your views. You can still have your passions.
Yeah.
It's hard to separate when someone sees Colin Kaepernick kneeling, they're like, I'm done with the NFL. If someone sees someone saying, well, booing Bubba Wallace, oh, I'm done with that. You know what I mean? How do you bring everyone back? What lowers the tension? I think comedy goes a long way. I mean,
It can. Yeah, I think it can.
I've never been to a show where I thought, like, wow, how many Republicans and how many Democrats are here? But, you know, I try to play it down the middle. I try to be pretty non-political on my shows overall. You know, and some people, they have a base. Bill Maher, he's got his left-wing base. Dennis Miller, they got their fan base. I'm not that famous, so I have to be more of a Ruth's Chris Steakhouse than the Ichiban sushi place. I have to have a little more for everybody, you know.
But it's kind of cool in the sense that we all are in our spot that we're in terms of success here. You know, we're talking about success today. We have to find out how to have success where we're at, right? I mean, your success, how you approach it may have to be different than a Dennis Miller or Bill Maher. So I'm just in wrapping up here, in terms of what you learned, like through your career, is there anything that you think it's important to pass on to people? Either people, let's say somebody wants to be a comedian today. Would you say, no, don't do it, a very bad time to get in? Or would you say, here's how to succeed?
Well, it's you know, the timing's up to the individual. And on an overall basis, it's a bad time to get into live comedy. Doesn't mean you can't try to do it online.
Right.
There's definitely going to be a shortage of content. So let's say you want to do comedy, even if you can't do live traditional stand-up shows where you can do sketches, you can do little bits, you can post, you can build a social media following.
Sure.
So, you know, like this TikTok thing, I don't know what's going to happen with that because there's a whole issue with China owning it. It may go away, but there's a lot of people being made famous on YouTube and TikTok we never heard of that are worth 10 times, 20 times we are.
Crazy.
They make these crazy little videos, 17 seconds, 15 seconds. So find something that sparks, brings you some joy and you think it'd be funny to other people. Don't be afraid to put it out there, and you know,
maybe podcasting.
Maybe a podcast.
Well, you know, you're doing a podcast. You got a podcast now.
I am, but I've been super inconsistent. I think, you know, I just hit up some people for guests, and so far I haven't heard anything. I mean, I've done 13 episodes. It's called How Does That Happen?
Yeah.
I interview unusual record holders instead of the Usain Bolt running the world record hold. I interview. Molly Schuyler, who ate 587 wings in 30 minutes for the World Wings
Which is pretty incredible.
5'4", 117 pounds, mother of four.
That's miraculous almost.
George Hood, 62-year-old man, for 8 hours, 15 seconds consecutively. Planking. Yeah. Documented. Guinness guy came out from England, you know, jolly good. We're going to give you the record and all that. Yeah.
It's crazy. Well, good. So
I actually did 10 hours, but that wasn't a Guinness event. So he's actually 10 hours just playing. So I like to look at the mindsets and the motivations and the methods for people do that. And I interviewed another guy, Sammy Obeid. He did comedy 1,003 nights in a row.
Really?
Yeah. So things like, and then I interviewed a guy trying to become the world's worst Uber driver, which I thought was,
Isn't there a lot of competition?
Well, he's trying though. Some of them are trying, and they're doing a good job. Yeah.
Yeah. So bringing this into like success in general, what have you learned that you can pass on? I mean, we've talked about a lot of it already in different ways, but if somebody who wants to just get something going, maybe they want to start something on their own, especially in this environment, and I don't mean necessarily in comedy, but maybe in anything, are there particular things that you just kind of run into all the time that are like, these things work and these things don't work?
Well, I think one is to have, you have to have a discipline about your life, which, I kind of fall off and on, which struggle with. Hey, if whatever you want to do, if you can get a leg up on it, all the successful people I've seen is get up early, get your prayer, meditation done, take care of the core things that you're trying to avoid. Always go after those, eat the frog. So take care of the stuff you want to avoid. Today I had some stuff left from yesterday, and I realized, well, I kind of avoided doing that. So I did that first thing. So then, and then your creative ideas, try to journal. I mean, I always write down your ideas, because
yes.
And everyone I see and I agree is mostly just handwrite.
Yes.
Like pen to paper, and instead of just typing in the computer.
Well, you're reminding me of Seinfeld. And Seinfeld, I don't know if he still does this. He probably still does, because he's a successful kind of guy. But he would talk about, he had a calendar, I think. You probably heard this story. He has a calendar on the wall. Every time he writes jokes, he crosses off that day.
Yep.
And he tried to leave the chain unbroken, right? That you just like a chain link fence.
Yeah, you try to give yourself some visual cues, some mileposts. Don't get too caught up in those. Yeah, but in all that's we digress for a second. The new Seinfeld special, really, really well done. Super clean, super smart. Not the typical. What's the deal? He gets into some stuff. And again, I want to say the new style. Yeah. So yeah, that's it. Just give yourself some leeway to make mistakes. Keep track of your ideas, because a lot of stuff, especially what I do, you get a creative idea, you forget about it, and then you're like hung up all day because you forgot it. But make sure you track your progress. Don't get too down on yourself. Ask questions. Find people. Find mentors. The internet's a great thing. There's so much free resources and help out there. So don't be afraid to ask questions. And don't be afraid of failing.
Yeah, exactly. Do you believe in using? Sometimes people will have a person that they work with, accountability partner or a coach or something like that, or.
I tried, but my accountability partners both times kind of went off the
rails.
Yeah. So number one rule: accountability partner. Pick a partner who will be accountable.
Right. I was gonna say, be accountable, or pick an accountable partner.
Yeah. So you just gave me a premise for a new joke I'm going to do now. See right there.
Hey, love to bring that in. Anything you want?
So yeah, you want to a lot of people. I see a lot of common theme among successful people is to publicly state your goals. I'm a little gun shy. It feels awkward to me. Like, I'm going to have a Netflix special.
Right.
By 2024, it's going to be called Innocent Bystander. You can look for that. And so maybe there's probably something to that. There is, the affirmations and actually vocalizing. I still struggle with that. So.
I struggle with that, and maybe for good reason, but maybe because we have shame. I have a guy. I know a guy, and I won't mention his name. We both know him. But I was at this was going way back to maybe my 10th or whatever anniversary. I mean, what do you call it? Reunion.
Yeah.
I'm like about 40 away or something now, but it's crazy. But one of my reunions I went to, or maybe I went to two of them, and this guy walked up to me and said, I'm going to be owning 3 hotels in Las Vegas in 10 years or something like this. And I'm like, it's so random. It's like, I haven't seen you in this long. I'd like to know maybe a little bit about what's that?
I was like, the first thing blurted out of his mouth?
Pretty much, yeah. And I'm like, I haven't seen you in years. I don't know if I said this to him. I should have. But it's like, I haven't seen you in years. And I kind of want to know, like, what you've been doing and, catch up on maybe old times a little bit. But he went right into the future. And I don't know if it's because he's had a bad past and a bad present or something, but it was very strange. So yeah, going out there and telling people what I'm going to do probably has its limits, Yeah. So anyway,
that's something, again, your accountability partner. Like Patrick shared to me, okay, I'm going to start up the podcast again.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you can certainly state your goals without getting on the internet and announcing it to everybody who may not care. Let's be honest.
Sometimes you guys want to kind of like tell somebody something to kind of get some feedback or whatever, or maybe a friend or whatever it is. And so it's kind of natural sometimes. And other times you just have to shut your mouth. You might have a great idea or something, and you might not be able to tell a single soul, right? Because if you do it, you're kind of letting out a little of that energy that would cause you to do it. And then if you say you're going to do it, you get all the love already for doing it, and you haven't even done it yet, right?
And it could be a great idea that someone's going to steal, sadly enough.
Especially in this day and age. So anyway, anything we're getting to the end here. Anything that you want to? And I haven't gotten into the details of your career, but I'll put a link in the description to a lot of your, greatest hits, so to speak, and the places you've been. And I mean, you did, Powwow Comedy Jam from way back, and then you're probably still dealing with some of you probably still go back and do some of that, I would think, because probably.
Not so much right now, of course.
Yeah, and so you've done, specials on HBO and even PBS and different things. I mean, he has a lot of stuff behind him. Is there anything like you want to promote right now, or anything you want to get out there before we go, or I know your website for one, of course.
Yeah, I don't like to overwhelm people, but if you go to my website, you can look around. Connects to my Instagram, my Facebook, whatever your YouTube, whatever. Most people have a favorite kind of portal that they get into their social media.
What is your site again?
Laugh with Marc, LAUGHWITHMARC. My parents couldn't spell, but if you remember Laugh with Marc with the K, I have that domain name also, so still point you right there. But Laugh spelled out, LAUGH. Laugh with Marc.
Marc with a C, right?
Yes. And I also, or if you want to watch, .com. And then also have a Dry Bar comedy special. Dry Bar is the largest producer of comedy content in the world now for stand-up. It's all pretty much family-oriented, clean comedy.
Good.
That's drybarcomedy.com, DRYBAR comedy.com/Marc, MARC.
Good.
So that they can write to the app. They can download the app for free, watch me for free on a tablet or phone, or it's like $1 if you want to watch a special on a TV or your computer.
Right. Okay. Cool. Well, hey, that's another thing that's going on. I wish you well with this. I know you're in an industry that's obviously tough right now, but I mean, you have weathered it out over a period of a long time. So you're obviously doing something right there, because you've been successful for decades now, right? I mean, how long have you been in comedy now?
I'm in year 21 of the 50-year plan.
Well, it's interesting. It must be interesting too, just to be at the level you're at and to know like how you've improved and things. Because after a while, they say 10,000 hours, right? You probably put in 100,000 hours by now or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But anyway,
I kept track. Yeah. But it's always a learning process, and that's the thing. Never stop asking questions, and don't get too complacent, whatever you're doing, and be grateful for, whatever success, small or large, you've had, because it doesn't always continue in the form you may want it. So I wish everybody well, and all your podcast listeners, and hope everyone gets to this time safely and thrives on the backside. Yeah,
good, man. And thank you for being with us. And I'm happy today. I'm happy to be alive each day, to be honest, in this crazy world. I'm happy to be alive and eating and well, and just not, having a good life. And I'm grateful for that, because we're really living in a crazy world. And I hope that's maybe part of the reason why, I'm doing these podcasts as well. But I kind of want to de-crazy the world a little bit, if that's possible, and bring some unity back into America again, and good-natured people around the world, obviously, who will be seeing this.
Everybody in Canada and Australia who are tuning in, we're not doing that bad in America. We're actually pretty sane. So
yeah. Good. Anyway, Marc, thank you very much for being with me today, and wish you continued success. So thanks very much for being with us. I'm just going to close it out.
All
right. Thank you, man. All right. That was Marc, my friend Marc Yaffee. Over decades, I've known Marc. Good guy, hardworking dude, independent. And he's been in the comedy game for a long time, and that is not easy to stay relevant in a game like that can be probably cutthroat in a lot of ways. But he's been able to maintain and keep success for many, many years. So he's doing a lot right, and hopefully you can glean some great tidbits out of this podcast. And make sure to get around. If you like it, send it around. And I'm going to be making the podcast available to my Subscribestar people. You can go to oldschoolus.com, oldschoolus.com, by the way, for my website. But I'm going to make my podcast available to my Subscribestar people only pretty soon. I may leave this one open as well. I left the last one open. I may leave this last one open for everybody, but very soon I'm going to be making these full video podcasts available only to Subscribestar. So I hope that you go to subscribestar.com, Patrick Rooney, Rooney, link in the description here as well, to become a Subscribestar supporter, and I really appreciate you. All right, I hope you got something out of this. We're going to be doing more podcasts on success as we go, and we're just going to get people in different fields and ask them about their life and what they're doing that works, and hopefully stuff that can be passed on to you so we get America up and going again. It's time, guys. It is really time. All right. Thank you so much for being with me today at Old School with Patrick Rooney podcast. And I look forward to seeing you on the next podcast. See you then.
Thank you for joining us on Old School with Patrick Rooney. Visit oldschoolus.com
to find out more about natural health, success, and freedom. See you next time.